I want to thank the students at Howard for joining. Really, really excited to speak with you guys today. I have Dr. Cherise Hardiman on. She is a 2019 Howard grad, and I also have Megan Jones. She is one of our territory directors here at Aspen Dental. What I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna let you guys know that we do have free CE at the moment. It is aspendentalce.com/welcome. Again, the link is below on the screen, aspendentalce.com/welcome. So we've been getting amazing feedback regarding the CE. It is open to all of our Aspen Dental doctors, students, and practicing doctors as well. So it's pretty much open to everyone and anyone. And it's been something that we've heard students been taking advantage of, Aspen Dental doctors and doctors that are practicing general dentistry as well. And we've been getting some amazing feedback, and I just want you guys to know it is really, really simple, really easy. All you have to do is go in and feel free to sign up, and then you'll be able to dive into some of those courses. So feel free to go again to aspendentalce.com/welcome. It can be during this call, it can be after this call, or it can be while you guys have some downtime during school. So if you have any questions regarding CE, please feel free to reach out or to pose in the question box. And then we're gonna go ahead and get started here. So just to introduce myself, my name is Miles Murphy. I am the Academic and Industry Relations Manager here for Aspen Dental Management. I oversee District 3, so I oversee Howard, which is one of my schools. I'm happy to speak with you guys today. And without further ado, I'm gonna let Dr. Hardiman introduce herself, and then I'm gonna let Dr. Megan Jones introduce herself as well. I do wanna encourage you guys to pose questions in the question box below. This is a Ask Me Anything session, and it is exactly what it sounds like. It's an Ask Me Anything. So please, whatever questions come top of mind, feel free to pose them in those questions below, and we will be happy to answer all those questions that come about. And I also want to let you guys know that when you signed up, you were able to pose some questions as well. So upon the sign up information, I've gotten a lot of great questions, and I will be making sure to circle back to those as well. So I'm going to go ahead and let Dr. Hardiman introduce herself, and then we'll open up the floor to Megan Jones.
Hi, everyone. I'm Cherise Hardiman. I attended Howard, and I am a 2019 graduate from the dental school, and I am now an associate doctor at Aspen Dental in North Carolina.
Great.
Hi, guys. I am Megan Jones. I'm the Territory Director of North Carolina and Virginia. I get to work every day with Dr. Hardiman as her business partner. So super excited about that. I've been with the company for almost 6 years. And in those I've done roles such as an office manager and a regional manager, all the way up to a territory director. And looking forward to getting to hear your questions tonight.
Great, thank you, Dr. Hardiman, and thank you, Megan. So we're gonna dive into some of these questions here. I'm not gonna take up any more of the time. I know the students are anxious to ask some intriguing questions. So let's start off with the first one that just came in, Dr. Hardiman. This one is for you. Why did you choose Aspen Dental post-graduation from Howard?
Sure. So I had a few options of different DSOs that I was looking into, and then also, of course, residency. I was talking to a few of my colleagues that graduated before me, and they were saying how they felt like they really appreciated their residency programs, but within the first 3 months, they felt like they were ready to go straight into the workforce, and they were kind of stuck in their programs because they had signed a year contract. So I kind of didn't want to put myself in that position. And then when it came to other DSOs, I was interviewing, and I kind of didn't like the other philosophies that they had. Aspen just really matched well with what I was looking for. So ultimately that's where I decided to go.
Great, thank you, Dr. Hardiman. So we're gonna transition, and I'm gonna piggyback on that question a little bit. So when you were graduating, before you graduated Howard, and you were currently, let's say you were a D4,
yeah,
what were some of the motivational factors for you upon making your decision with Aspen? Or it doesn't even have to be about you choosing Aspen. It can be about what you were looking for once you graduated dental school and got licensed.
So I was looking for a DSO that had a lot of support for the doctors. I was also looking for an organization that was widely available throughout the country. Should I decide to move and, go to a different part of the country? I also wanted a company that was big on giving back to the community and offering a lot of different opportunities when it came to CE courses. And Aspen really just checked off all of those boxes for me.
Great. Thank you, doctor. It's always wonderful to hear, because every student is different, right? It's always wonderful to hear what students are looking for when they're in dental school, and what are some of the factors that are going to play a part on when they choose where they want to start their professional career. So thank you for that. So I know that you did mention you want that support, right? And I know that Megan, being a territory director and having a huge hand in operations. So what does the support look like for you on a day-to-day basis? And I'm gonna let you answer this one first, and then Megan could go ahead and jump in afterwards, but from an operations standpoint. So you're in your practice, and what is the support that you're getting from a staffing perspective, from an operations perspective? What does that look like for you?
Sure. So I'll say, like, the great thing about Aspen Dental is a lot of the offices have a lead doctor and then they have an associate doctor. And they really focus on your first 4 weeks of training. It's called the Doctor Development Program. And they really support you by asking you, what are you comfortable with? How much time do you feel like you need for each procedure? What kind of instruments do you need? And they really help you lay out everything, which really sets you up for success while you're working with the company. So, and Megan knows I was talking to her pretty much every single week, and she was asking me every single week, what else do you need from us? And whatever I said, they had it within like 2 or 3 days. So
Yeah, that's great, Megan. And if you want to kind of piggyback on what Dr. Hardiman said from a operations and support standpoint, what does your job look like being a support system for Dr. Hardiman?
Yeah, so my job really starts the beginning of when you decide, hey, I want to interview with Aspen. So you'll talk with myself and an owner doctor for the location that you're looking for. And if we decide to move forward, I'm kind of throughout your interview process, because as a dentist, we want you to focus on being with your patients, right? So if you are recruiting for another doctor, because 2 doctors in every office is our goal, we have enough patient demand, especially in North Carolina and Virginia, that we need to have that to be able to meet those patients, especially now coming kind of out of a pandemic. We've got a lot of backlog of patients that need us. So my relationship starts at the beginning of the interview process. And then I'm with you through the offer process, through credentialing, through the really fun licensure right now, which is a headache for all of us, and the DEA process, to help you understand what that looks like. And then, like Dr. Hardiman said, it's onboarding, getting your plan in place. And at this point, you know how to be a dentist. What we're going to help you do is, what type of dentist do you want to be? What procedures do you want to do every day? What do you want to make as your standard of care? And how can we help you achieve that goal as quickly as possible?
Great. Thank you, Megan, for that. It's always great to kind of hear what the support looks like, because when I speak to a lot of the students, and I'm going to these schools, and I'm just connecting with the students and hearing what they're looking for. Support is a massive thing, right? And it's great that if they do choose a DSO, they'll have a director to provide them with that support on a daily and weekly basis. And I kind of want to extend that question a little bit. I know that Dr. Hardiman, she mentioned the doctor development plan and the mentorship. So coming out of Howard and starting, you can talk about the onboarding process up until your first 6 months when you're practicing general dentistry. What did that mentorship process look for you, doctor?
yeah, so like I said, we started out with a lot of support from the Aspen corporate side. And so that was really laying out a plan of, what your goals are, what you're expecting from the company, And we kind of aligned with the lead doctor from there to see how we can move forward. And any questions that I had for the lead doctor, he would completely answer them, no loopholes, anything like that. And then anything that I was not clear on, he would show me. Like, of course, things work differently at every single office. And so getting acquainted with, you know, how things work was a big portion of it as well. So I did a lot of shadowing with him the first 2 weeks, and he was not afraid to throw me in there. And that is what makes you a lot more comfortable with the procedures, obviously. So that was really helpful. Anything that I was unsure of, he showed me how to do it. After the first couple of times, I was comfortable doing it. So that wasn't really an issue at all.
Great. Thank you for that, Doctor. Megan, do you want to add to that regarding what our mentorship process looks like for an onboarding doc up until, you know, maybe 6 months to a year in?
Yeah, so just like Dr. Hardiman said, it's with whatever mentor doctor, whether that's your owner or it's a designated mentor, it's about knowing what procedures that you want to get into and what you want to really dig in and know about yourself. So maybe in school you didn't do a lot of surgical extractions, and in Aspen, that's especially in our area, we do a lot of extractions in denture patients and starting to get into implants. So that's a common thing that you're going to treatment plan for patients and they're going to lean towards. Maybe you're not fully confident in that because you haven't done a ton of them. It's getting in there and trying it because that's the best way for experience to know how to do it. And it's having that mentor that's right there, letting you get started, letting you see how you can do it, and then coming in and helping to prevent the patient from having any negative experience. And also making sure that they can teach you the way of, hey, this is what I would do and this is what my tips and tricks are. You also have other specialists that can do that too. So we have oral surgeons that come and work in Aspen that come into these different offices, endodontists. So if there's different parts of dentistry that interest you and you would like to have that exposure, you have these other dentists to lean on and specialists to take you in side by side and show you. If you wanted to see, hey, I just want to observe this, or I want to go and assist you and see how you've done this, take out the wisdom teeth and things like that. It's really great to be able to do that.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, we can talk about mentorship all night, right? But a student coming out and once they graduate, they're not really going to know what it means to have that mentor by their side unless they live it, right? And I know that Dr. Hardiman, she mentioned, you know, they threw you in there and then, you know, you had that support system, but you learned on the go, right? You were able to bounce ideas off of your mentor doctor and such. So I think it's great that you kind of spoke about that from your point of view. So thank you, Doctor. So we have a question. We have a couple more questions that are coming in. What are some, this is for you, Dr. Hardiman, what are some common struggles you see in graduates during their first associate year? So what were you struggling with the most once you made that transition from graduating, getting your license, starting, and then that first year practicing general dentistry?
Sure. So I actually really like this question because I actually started in private practice before I came to Aspen. And so the really big thing that I will say that was really helpful for me was having that support when I joined Aspen. So when you're in a private practice, you're kind of by yourself. You don't really get to bounce ideas off of other people. And when I joined Aspen, I not only had another doctor to talk about different things with, but I also had the support side. So anything that I was struggling with, I guess the most that I had struggles with were probably like extractions, but having that mentor doctor there really helped me develop my skills. And there's pretty much not too many extractions that I can't do at this point.
She's a pro now. She's a pro.
Wisdom teeth. So, and a lot of general dentists do not do wisdom teeth in private practice. And now I'm super comfortable with it. So that's going to be a skill that I can take with me wherever for the rest of my life. So
that's great. Thank you, Doctor. And I like how you started your answer off where you start off with a private practice and then you then started with Aspen Dental. And we're going to get into that a little bit later on what you saw were some of the differences and similarities. Wanted to extend this question a little bit to Megan. Is there any, just to generalize it on a larger scale, is there any common struggles you see, just associates being a territory director, do you see on a day-to-day basis, or for associates that are onboarding? What are some of the struggles that you might see?
Within Aspen or without of Aspen?
So I would say within Aspen, just once they start with us, and let's say that first year, when they reach out to you like, hey, Megan, like I need some help, you know, and I know that's obviously happened to you plenty of times. You know, if you can just name maybe a couple struggles that you've seen, what were some of the ones that got in the most?
I think the first one is knowing what's all the support you have. So I'm a very, very small portion of the support that you get with Aspen. We have so many other layers, whether it's additional clinical support outside of your mentor doctor that are registered dentists in your area that you can reach out to, hygienists that are licensed, so hygiene support. We have an on-site dental lab in every office, and with that, we also have a divisional director of lab support that can come in and help support you if you're struggling with, you know, cases or dentures. Maybe you're doing over dentures with implants. Those are tricky. So you have those additional support. So I'd say the first thing that associates struggle with is knowing all the different avenues that we have based on what you need, because general dentistry is a big wide world of unknown. And if you might be struggling an issue and you could have someone just up the street that can help you, or one phone call away. But if you didn't know that person was out there, you're kind of in your own box. So it's opening up that box to let you know, here's all your support. And that's what we really try to do in those first 4 weeks. And even at the interview, letting you know who are all these different people, and why you're talking to so many of us is because we want you to know you're part of our family. I would say the second biggest piece is just being open and flexible. So you kind of have to be vulnerable when you're an associate going in, and open yourself up to trying it different ways. You're going to build yourself as a clinician. You'll learn a lot of those first 4 to 6 weeks, and even into the first 6 months. You may go in thinking, this is what I was taught in school, this is how I'm going to do this, how am I going to approach this problem? But as you get in it, you may adapt your style change, and that's okay. And that's, I think, the biggest piece, is being open that you may evolve your standard of care differently than what you thought when you first graduated.
Yeah, and thank you, Megan. That's great, because I like how you said a lot of the doctors, the new doctors, they don't know that they have that support, and it goes back to what Dr. Hardiman said, coming from a private practice and then transitioning to Aspen Dental, where she didn't have that layer of support. So she came in like, hey, like this is great. I finally have this support now, and I'm able to spread my wings a little bit, you know, as a doctor. So I think that's great, and thank you for that. So we have another question that came in. Megan, if you want to take this one. This is a question regarding CE, specifically geared towards specific procedures. So is there an opportunity for Aspen to support the doctor in obtaining CE, specifically geared towards procedures and education the doctor chooses? So I know that I mentioned in the beginning of the call that we do have free online CE courses for not only Aspen doctors, but for students and for the general public as well. So if you come in as a Aspen doctor, are they able to partner with the owner regarding CE, specifically geared towards some of the procedures they're looking for? Like what might that process look like if we do offer it?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a little bit tough right now with COVID, because we got to get it on in an online version, depending on what state you're in. But pre-COVID, it was a lot easier. Say you and your owner doctor or your mentor doctor identify that you love root canals and you really want to dig in deeper here and do something. We would work with one of our sponsors, so say Dentistry, and we would set up, potentially see what other doctors are interested in this area, potentially even open it up all the way to Aspen, and then we can do a CE course for you guys on that end. Now it's more of a virtual process, but same thing. We need to identify what need you're looking for. We'd work with our partners, whether it's, you know, Dentsply, whether it's Nobel, whatever type of procedure you're looking for. We'd reach out to them and see what courses do you have, what speakers do you have, what ability, and then what format can we do this in. And if you have a question, I think the biggest thing is, if you have a need and you want to learn something, there's probably another doctor out there that has the same question and wants to learn the same piece. So we also try to be very inclusive, just like with the free CE when you're not even an Aspen dentist, because knowledge is power, and we don't want to exclude anybody from learning and being a better dentist.
Thank you, Megan. That was great. And Yeah, just wanted to kind of piggyback on that. Like we do offer that, and I know Dr. Hardiman had mentioned earlier, like she came in wanting to touch up her skills on some specific procedures, and she was able to do that. So I saw a question that just came in. I think we can start off with Dr. Hardiman on this, and then even Megan, you can jump in as well regarding treatment planning. So a question that will I do my own treatment planning? And as a new grad, do I get full autonomy over treatment plans? So Dr. Hardiman, you can go ahead and say what that looked like for you once you started. And then Megan, you obviously know how that works as well within each office. So you can go ahead and jump in after Dr. Hardiman.
Sure. So you will get plenty of opportunities to treatment plan. We get so many new patients every single day, and you have full autonomy to treatment plan exactly how you were taught in school. No one's going to come step on your toes when you're doing your treatment plans. The way it works with me in our office, we have a treatment plan coordinator, and basically, well, depending on how the days are going with coronavirus, they come into the room with us, and the treatment plan coordinator kind of sits in the background, helps you go through x-rays with the patient on the television. And then you kind of tell the treatment plan coordinator what you're thinking as far as treatment for the patient. And we kind of put this into priority based on what's an emergency, what can wait a little bit, especially with patient finances, with everything that's going on as far as the virus is concerned. And then from there, we kind of do something called a handoff, and we hand it off to the treatment plan coordinator. That way they can prioritize everything into a treatment plan, and they kind of go over finances and things like that with them. And then I kind of stay around for a few minutes just in case the patient has any questions. But yeah, like I said, you have complete autonomy. You get to choose all the treatment that you want to do for that patient. And of course, we want to make sure that everything that we're doing is in the best interest of the patient.
Yeah, so I would say the big piece here is that we are not licensed providers, only the dentists are. And even the hygienists that are going to go in, and typically in a perfect world, they go in prior to the dentist so that you have this beautiful perio chart to use in your comprehensive exam. But sometimes it doesn't always work out that way, especially in Corona land where you're changing your PPE extensively and you can't break certain procedures. But in the perfect world, the hygienist has gone in, they've made their recommendations, and then you're going to validate that as the doctor and then work with that treatment plan coordinator of how you want to attack this with the patient, what's that most priority, and they're going to go over the financing. They're going to figure out how the insurance works. They're going to go over all of those things, but it's your prescription plan at all times because it's your name on it. And if anything were to change, like a patient changes their mind, we go and get Dr. Hardiman and be like, okay, so she doesn't want to do the root canal anymore. She wants you to take the tooth out today. It hurts. Is that going to work, doc? And doc can say yes or no and may have to go in and figure out a replacement option or something to that effect, or be fine with nothing. So that's where we lean on the doctors. If there was a request from the patient to change after they leave that operatory, then we have to go and get that approval by the doctor. She's going to update her notes, and we have all of that in there.
Great. Thank you. I also want to just drive this point home that basically what Megan and Dr. Hardiman says, you get full autonomy over treatment planning. And even that's something when I'm connecting with the students, that's something that I hear is like, when I start from day one, will I be able to pretty much practice general dentistry to my best ability, right? Am I going to be able to spread my wings and create my own treatment plans? And that's something that we absolutely do offer here at Aspen Dental. So thank you for your answers. So I just got a question that came in regarding compensation structure. Megan, you can go ahead and start off with this one. Without going into any numbers or logistics, just touching the surface a little bit on how the compensation structure looks for, I want to say, an associate that's come straight out of dental school.
Yeah, so each doctor pays you so that you work for it as your owner doctor, but it starts with a daily rate. So it's what you would say a daily rate or a guarantee. It's the same thing. And that whatever that amount is, you get that on your biweekly pay for any time you come in the office. So if you're working, most of our offices do a half day on Fridays and select half Saturdays once a month. You're still going to get your full daily rate if you're not there full 8 hours. And you get that, like I said, bi-weekly. And then on top of that, we want to average everything together. So we take the total average in revenue deposit of the office. So not just your production, not just what your collections were on your patients, it's the entire office. So it's whatever your mentor doctor did, or your managing clinical director did, whatever the associate completed, whatever the hygienist completed. If you have an oral surgeon and an endodontist that came in, it's all of that put into one big bucket, right? We take out any of the controllable costs, which would be our supplies and our wages for our team and ourselves, right? Because we've already paid ourselves our daily draw. And then that difference is based off of percentage. And an associate percentage is a little bit different than a MCD percentage. And those are decided by your owner doctor.
Great. Thank you, Megan. So we have a question that just came in. I want to make sure I get to this, and we're going to start off with Dr. Hardiman on this one. If you can kind of go into your journey a little bit and dive maybe a year ago, right? Since you just graduated, dive into your journey a year ago and when you were a D4. So I wanna bring up location, and from geographically speaking, where did you end up where you wanted when you started your professional career? I know that students, they have in their mind, especially when they're a D4, they have specific locations, specific geographics that they want to stick to, right? Whether it's they want to be close to their family, a loved one, they want to stay close to home, whatever it is. So if you just wanted Dr. Hardiman go into that a little bit, what location did you want to be in, and did you end up staying in that state or that region, and how has it worked out for you so far?
Sure. So I am actually from Charlotte, so I definitely wanted to be back in North Carolina. And luckily for me, when I was graduating, that's when Aspen was really tapping into the North Carolina market. So I will say I have classmates that also work for Aspen, and everyone that went back home to work for Aspen, nobody lives more than 2 hours outside of where their family is. And so when it comes to choosing a location that is ideal for you, I would say that was what I was talking about earlier. That's the great part about Aspen, is that there are so many offices throughout the country that you kind of really don't have to worry about whether or not you're going to be in the location that you want to be in. And even if you are just a few minutes outside of your hometown, I think it's worth it to be in a company like this and maybe have a 30-minute drive or a 40-minute drive, but still get all of the support that you get with Aspen Dental.
Yeah, and I guess I'll just tag on a little bit at the end of that, is that we're constantly growing. So like Dr. Hardiman said, we just opened North Carolina just recently. We really had a big boom last year and this year, and we're continuing to grow into more states that we've never been into. So if we don't have a location available right now, it doesn't mean that we can't find something for you soon and we won't be able to move you where you need to be. We just had a doctor who actually started with us out in Texas and was waiting for Wake Forest to come open so he could get back home closer to his family. So he started out there, was with them for about 6 months, and Wake Forest just came on our map for next year. And he was able to transfer out here 2 weeks ago and is going to be helping out in an office until his other office opens. So we're super excited about that. And I think that's the big piece, is we want to know what your goal is. And we start at the very beginning of this process when you are interviewing with us. Where do you want to end up? And if it's not a location we have available right now, whether it's because we're not open or because it's filled, we're going to figure out how we eventually get you closer there if we can, and put that plan together. And that again goes back to that support.
And I was also going to say, even if I were to end up somewhere else in North Carolina, and then maybe like 6 months later, I was like, I really want to be closer to home. We literally just had 2 other offices open within this region, all within September. So
Yep.
obviously it's going to open for you. If that's not the location you're looking for, it's going to open soon.
Great. Thank you for that. We just got a question that came in, and I think this is an interesting question for aspiring owners. So we'll start off with Megan on this one. Are there partner and equity opportunities with Aspen Dental practices? So can you, from an ownership standpoint, are you able to be a partner with one of what maybe one practice, or we have owners that own 25, right? So are there partnership opportunities within the Aspen Dental Network?
Yeah, we have lots of different opportunities. We have partnership opportunities, whether it's in one practice or in multiple practices with the same owner. And then there's outright ownership too. So there's different levels of what your path looks like and what you're looking to grow into. And we identify that kind of after you've been with us for the first couple up 6 months, sometimes a little bit sooner than that, we might start having those conversations. And we want to know what your goal is and where you want to be and what your side of being a dentist would like to be doing. So whether that is owning your own practice, whether that's partnering in because you have a great relationship, like Dr. Hardiman works with Dr. Elijah, and I know that they have a great relationship, but it's having those conversations early on. We're very transparent. If that's something that you want to do, let's talk about it and let's put a plan in place. It might not happen tomorrow, but we can absolutely make it happen.
And I'll also say that also is where the location thing comes into play. So if you were looking to be an owner and there's a location that's not open yet that you were kind of looking to tap into, that could be another opportunity for you to open maybe in that market.
Great call out, Doc.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would actually kind of piggyback on that question because we have one that just came in as well regarding you, Dr. Hardiman. When you were a D4, were you thinking about ownership? And is that something maybe that's in your 5-year plan, 10-year plan? What does that look like for you from an ownership perspective?
That was not something that I was interested in as a D4. I was more so interested in getting into the workforce and starting my career and developing my skills. I'm sure eventually I will get into ownership, but in my personal opinion, I wanted to focus my first 3 years out of school, really developing my doctor skills.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, doctor, for that insight. So I know that you mentioned, it was around 10 or 15 minutes ago, that you started in a private practice and you transitioned to Aspen Dental. So we have a question that came in that a student had submitted beforehand, before this live session, regarding the differences between a private practice and a DSO at, let's say Aspen Dental, right? So if you can kind of give, you don't really have to make a list of pros and cons here. You can just touch the surface a little bit on what was the difference in experiences for you once you transition from a private and then going to a DSO. What was the biggest differences for you, Dr. Hardiman?
Sure. So when I was in private practice, I was by myself. I was an associate doctor, but the owner doctor was overseas and he just needed someone to be in the office to help see his patients. And I will say probably the biggest difference is Aspen has a marketing team. They have a team that gets together patients for you versus a private practice. You kind of have to recruit your own patients. And if not, your schedule is not going to stay full. And you're kind of just twiddling your thumbs like, well, what are we going to do for production today? Versus a DSO, they're going to find those patients for you. Your schedule is going to be filled exactly the way you want it to be. And like I said, you'll always have that support when it comes to your mentor doctors and anything like on the corporate side. And then when it came down to private practice as well, anything like advances wise as far as technology, it was a little bit more difficult, whereas Aspen is moving pretty quickly in all aspects as far as Invisalign, implants. You kind of get more opportunities in that aspect as well.
Yeah, great. Thank you for that, doctor. And I just want to tag on that a little bit, for the students on this live AMA that don't know what a DSO is. So a DSO is a dental services organization. So we are, like Dr. Hardiman said, you're a built-in consultant for that support. All of our offices are owned by doctors, and if it's a little bit different when you have your own private practice and when you own an office through the Aspen Dental organization, we provide you that support, right? And Megan can absolutely testament to this. She is the operations support, right? We have the operations support. Dr. Hardiman said we have the marketing support. So you have to figure out when you own your own practice, you have to figure out a way to get those patients through the door. So we have our own marketing team that takes care of that for you. Our office sees an average of 7 to 8 new patients a day. So we can imagine the legwork that our marketing team works. And not only from marketing and operations, but from a payroll and a finance support, from an HR, from a recruiting support, a tech support, everything that goes into that. When you own your own practice, you have to think about getting supplies, right? So we, Aspen Dental, we use Henry Schein. We're a fun fact for everyone on this call. Henry Schein, we are the second largest customer for Henry Schein after the US government. So we take care of everything from the business standpoint when it comes to owning your own practice at Aspen Dental. And it trickles down to not just owning, but being an associate or being a lead dentist. We show you that wide range of support from a mentorship standpoint and everything that goes into practicing dentistry. So just wanted to clarify who didn't know what a DSO was. And I think that's really important because sometimes D4s don't know, sometimes D1s coming in don't know what it is. And I like that that question was asked. So let's switch gears a little bit here regarding let's ask Dr. Hardiman to kind of dive into her journey a little bit on the everyday. So what do you find, this is a question that just came in, what do you enjoy most about dentistry and what do you find most frustrating about dentistry?
The most enjoyable part of dentistry, in my opinion, I love doing production and I love doing long productions. So my root canal cases, my full mouth extraction cases, those cases that take hours and then at the end you get to see a beautiful result. When you put all that hard work in, those are probably my favorite things to do. My least favorite part of dentistry is kind of dealing with the dissatisfaction of patients. So everything's not going to be peachy every single day. A lot of people are having a hard time right now, and it might not even necessarily be the work that you're doing, but it just is the mood that they're in for the day. And you kind of have to take it as it comes and kind of reroute and help them realize that, we can get them in the ideal position that they want to be in as far as their oral health, and everything's going to be okay. You kind of just have to walk them through that process though.
Great. Thank you, Doctor. And this is another question that came in, and it kind of relates to what you mentioned on a day-to-day basis and what your day looks like. So this is a COVID question. So what are some of the changes you are currently making within your office regarding COVID-19 and the pandemic that we're currently in? I can imagine, and Megan, you could go ahead and jump in afterwards. I can imagine things being a little bit different from that standpoint and treating patients and taking precautions and things like that. So what does that look like, and how is it a little bit different before all of this started?
Yeah, so I'm basically the COVID dentist. When I started with Aspen, I started in March. It was peak COVID time. I literally started 2 days, and then that's when everything blew up. So from there, we had to take a lot of different precautions, and I felt like I was very safe every day when I went to work. We cleaned literally everything every single hour. We thoroughly clean our operatories every single day. Of course, we sterilize all of our instruments. We wear our mask every single day. We wear our face shields for any aerosol producing productions. We take every single precaution possible. We change our clothes every time we come into the office. Every time we leave the office, we change our clothes. So, I'm not concerned about that at all.
Yeah, our life definitely changed, and Dr. Hardiman was our COVID doctor. Literally 2 days after I onboarded her, I called her and I was like, so the governor said we can only do emergency care, so we're not sure really what that means right now, and we're going to call you more back to normal. And she was like, okay, got it. And we did, and we got her back in, and she didn't miss a beat, and she was fantastic. And she was really brave to walk in, because I know we were lucky enough for a lot of our doctors to stay open, and we followed the regulations per the state and saw those emergent care. So her owner was the only one that was in the practice, and those very unknown hours and days of what does right look like here. And it kind of changed minute by minute. At this point, I think we finally got our feet underneath us, and we know the right precautions to take. We know the safety measures from the COVID screening from all of our patients. We have logs for our teams. If you're sick, stay home, and we hold each other accountable to that. We have mask police. If you take your mask off and you're not eating, one of us will yell at each other about it. So it's keeping everybody intact to have that heightened sense of safety and awareness to keep everybody safe, because as much as we're trying to get back to normal, it's not, right? And we've got to continue to keep that due diligence to keep everybody safe so we don't ever go back to March.
Great. Thank you for that, Dr. Hardiman. I like how you said that you're the COVID doctor. That's actually really funny, but it actually ties back to a common a common thing, that a common concern that not only students but general dentists or special dentist, whatever they are, they have that concern regarding COVID. Like, what does my everyday look like? Whether I'm going in the office every day or whether my schedule is changing a little bit. What exactly does that look like? So I like that you mentioned that. So now, since you've been through that, you can endure anything, right, doctor? Great. So we'll start off with Megan on this one, and this is a career question, and I think that this is a question that I personally get all the time regarding career opportunities at Aspen Dental. So we know that you start off as an associate, and then you can make your way to an MCD, which is a lead dentist. Megan, if you want to just kind of go into some of the details on what an associate is and what their schedule looks like compared to MCD and an MCD's role in the office.
Yeah. So an associate dentist is really a dentist that it's one of two. So one, it's a new grad that you're coming in, and we're mentoring you and we're getting you set up to get to that lead dentist stature. And that just comes with experience. Or you might be an MCD. We have some that have been managing clinical directors. They've been in private practices, and they just don't want the pressure of leading and mentoring, and they just want to come in. They love dentistry, and that's what they want to do. So whichever area you kind of fit in, I think it's not a one size fit all for an associate. The biggest difference between an associate and an MCD is the leadership. So as an associate, your main focus is, what do you want on your schedule? What's your standards of care? How do you want your schedule managed so that we can help hold your team accountable to it, and kind of working through your patient flow. As an MCD, so a managing clinical director, you're in charge of managing your flow, but the whole office, and you're a leader. So you're also jumping in and helping your associate, whether it's that they're running behind and you're going to go numb their patient. Maybe they're actually stuck in a procedure where you need to go and help them. You're going to be dealing with those escalated patients. As an associate, you may get a few of them, but your MCD is going to get those heightened ones, right? So it's another kind of layer in your toolbox, and it's really more leadership. There's nothing very different between the skill set, except for a little bit more experience from an associate to an MCD. It's more that leadership quality, and do you want to grow more, and do you want to own more in the office, or do you really want to stay and just be doing the dentistry portion of it? What excites you? What's your passion?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Megan. And to kind of flip this question a little bit for Dr. Hardiman, what does your schedule typically look like as an associate doctor?
Sure. So, pretty much wherever they need me. I help with production, I help with overflow, and I definitely support my MCD fully. So whenever she needs help, as far as new patients or anything that we're falling behind on, I jump in wherever I can. I guess the best thing about Aspen is that everyone works as a team. And so it's not so much of, you need to do this, you need to do this. It's how can I support you? How can I help you so that everything can flow smoothly? So wherever I can jump in, that's where I'm going to jump in so that everyone can go home on time.
And overflow, just to touch on that, overflow is a really fun made-up word that we like to use at Aspen Dental. It is kind of our catch-all chair. So we have our production chair, we have our new patient chair, and then we have this really fun thing called overflow. So it's going to be a mixture of your denture steps. Depending on your preferences, it could include deliveries as well, and crown and bridge. And it'll also include like your post-ops, your adjustments, those types of things. It's kind of your catch-all of those extra procedures outside of the actual productions.
Great. Thank you for that. So we got a question that just came in regarding staffing. So it was a question that said, can an MCD have more than one associate in a single office? So I kind of want to flip that question a little bit, and feel free, Dr. Hardiman, and since you're in the office every single day, and Megan as well, from an operations standpoint, what does the staffing look like in an Aspen Dental office?
Megan, you want to take that one first?
Yeah, I can start that one. So can there be more than one associate? It depends on the doctor and the flow of the office. No offices are made identical. At one point, just because of circumstance, we had, I think, 6 doctors in one practice. It's because they were kind of onboarding and waiting for those 2 offices we opened back to back to kind of come together. I would say it just depends. It depends on the needs and the demand in that area and what the owner doctor is looking for. We definitely have offices in Aspen Nation that do have multiple associates. Our standard typically, and our most average model that we have, or recommended model, is that 2-doctor model, which would be a managing clinical director and an associate. But that's not to say that you couldn't have another associate, or sometimes you'll have your owner, like in Dr. Hardiman's case, that will travel. So sometimes you might have 3 doctors in your practice. It might be your managing clinical director, the associate, and your owner doctor. So definitely not unheard of. We want to match the demand. So if there's patients that need us, we're going to give you the right recommendations for staffing based off of that.
Great, thank you, Megan. And Dr. Hardiman, I want to ask you, outside of practicing general doctors, what does the additional staffing look like regarding hygienists, office managers, dental assistants? What does that look like for you in your office currently?
Sure. So in my office, we currently have 2 hygienists. We also have basically, we try to keep at least 2 dental assistants per doctor. So right now we have 4 dental assistants. We have a PSR, which is our front desk team. They answer phone calls, they check in patients, they verify insurance. And then we try to keep 2 treatment plan coordinators so that we can keep the flow of new patients going. And then we also have a lab tech, which is super helpful because we don't have to do all of those denture steps on our own. And we also have a quicker turnaround when it comes to getting our patients their dentures.
Great, thank you, Dr. Hardiman. It looks like that we're coming up on the last 10 minutes here. I want to thank you all of this. I want to thank all the students again. You guys are submitting some great, amazing questions. I'm trying my best to get to all of them. They're flowing in very rapidly. So I'm really trying my best to get to all of them. And I want to thank you again. These are some amazing questions. And Megan, I know that you currently have a dinner with a doctor. So feel free whenever you're ready to hop off, you absolutely can. Dr. Hardiman, and I can take it from there. So there was a question that came up regarding contracts. It says, what can we expect that will be offered in the contract for a new dentist? Is it salary, per diem, or based off of production? I know that, Megan, you had mentioned what the compensation structure looks like a few questions back. So if you just want to answer that, or reiterate it a little bit, or if you want to answer the first part of that question on, are there contracts? What does that look like? And how do you go from there?
Yeah, so I can start that, and then Doc, obviously I want you to share your experience with the team, but first would be, we don't do contracts. We do good faith offers. We don't have a non-compete. I'm not going to give you any of that, because as much as we want you to be a part of us, if you come to me or to your owner doctor and say, you know what, this isn't the right fit for me, whether it's a couple days into your training, whether it's a year later, or whatever that looks like, we want to part amicably. A lot of the doctors will ask you for a certain amount of day notice, something like a 90-day notice. The reason they're asking for that isn't for anything selfish besides that, most of the time we have patients booked out 90 days. That's the minimum recommendation. I know Dr. Hardiman's nodding because right now in her 90-day schedule, she has 600 patients waiting to get in to see her. Those are new patients. So if she were to tell me right now that, you know what, this isn't for me, I'm going to leave, it would cause these patients that need us now to wait even longer than they're already waiting with multiple doctors. So when it comes back to a contract, no, we don't do a contract. We try to be as fully transparent as possible. We're going to do a good faith offer, let you know what the compensation looks like, communicate all those things, and then set you up for success. And at any point you don't feel like this is right for you, we're going to work with you to make a smooth exit and make sure our patients are taken care of.
Yeah, and back to what Megan was saying, I think the great thing about Aspen is the flexibility that they provide. And so, like she said, there's not a really, there's not a non-compete clause. You don't work based on production. So they're not forcing you to do a certain amount of productions per day. They want you to be as comfortable as possible and then pick up your speed as you go. But it's not forcing you to do anything that you're not comfortable with.
Great, thank you, Dr. Hardiman. And I love that answer because that's another question that I've received was, are there production goals? So thank you for answering 2 questions in one. That was great because that's a misconception that I hear from students all day long, right? Is there production goals? Are we forced to overtreat patients? And everything that goes into that. And I just want to say, and you hear it from Dr. Hardiman herself, that is an absolute myth, right? And we're just here to kind of debunk that a little bit, that there's no production goals. You move at your own speed, and you create your own treatment plan, and then you go with that, and whatever you're comfortable with, you're comfortable with. If you need to refer something out to one of your lead dentists or to a specialist or whatever it is, we want to make sure that you're comfortable with treating patients. And that's a big point that I really want to drive home, because the whole thing of is there goals or not. So thank you, Dr. Hardiman, for that. We have a question here regarding if Megan kind of answered this a little bit on her last question. So do you make your own schedule, Dr. Hardiman, or is it made for you? What does that look like?
So it just depends. So obviously there are things that need to be worked into the schedule. Everything can't be run through me. Otherwise I would be going crazy because so many patients every single day. We schedule what makes sense, and I go through my schedule every single day, at least the day before. And if I feel like it doesn't work with, what I need as far as the length of time of scheduling, the day of scheduling, I can always go and reschedule the patients if I need to. So I kind of make my own schedule, but I don't, because that would be way too much.
I would say the other piece I'd add on there is we build your preferences out. So we've got Dr. Hardiman's preferences of what she wants for her times. And they're a little bit more, they're different right now because of COVID, and she's had to build in changing PPE and all those fun things. So they might be more exaggerated than when she first gave them to me, but your team up front has those preferences and you can adjust them at any point. So whether that you're going through a pandemic or you have new dental assistants, and your times will change when you have a new dental assistant team. When you're getting used to somebody else and they're handing you instruments, their speed and them reacting to you is very different. So you might be like, hey, Megan, I know I wanted an hour for crown preps, but with Gina, she's not as fast with the temporary process. So I'm actually going to need you to bump that back to an hour and a half. So with our smart scheduling process, your regional manager or myself or your office manager will plug in those changes to your preferences. So when we are scheduling a patient that you've treatment planned or they call back and schedule, it's to Doc's preferences without her directly having to say, Megan, yes, I approve of that to go there for this amount of time.
Great, thank you. So this is a question that came in regarding path to ownership. Megan, if you want to take this one here, what exactly does that path to ownership look like? Because it was actually a question regarding the difference between being an owner and an MCD, and I also had a question on the path to ownership. So I want to combine those questions a little bit because I feel that they're absolutely relevant to each other. What is the difference between a MCD and an owner? And in a nutshell, short answer, what does the path to ownership look like once you're an MCD and you want to take that leap on becoming an owner?
Yeah. So the difference between an MCD and an owner, the managing clinical director is just managing the office and will report directly to the owner of the practice for anything outside of what they can't do in their day-to-day. The owner pays for all the dentists. Anybody that's in the practice, they pay for their dentist, they pay for their team, just like you would in private practice. They pay for all the costs incurred. You know, we're here to help support, and I'm their business partner, but I don't pay their team. Dr. Elijah or whatever doctor, you know, owns that practice pays for that team, and because it's their team, it's their people. So that's the main difference. The managing clinical director doesn't pay for anybody on their team. The owner will. And you have full autonomy as the owner to decide kind of what your structure looks like. Again, just like being in a private practice, it's that path to ownership. So once you've been an MCD for at least, 6 months to potentially a year, each timeline's a little different, so I wouldn't put an exact number on it, but you're feeling good in your role, your office is moving in the right direction, and your profitability point, it's you going in and physically purchasing an office, very similar to what you would do as a private practice, but you're going to get all the support with it. So you're not doing this process alone. So navigation on what that looks like, especially if you're in a tough state, like some of ours are, especially right now with restrictions, it's really hard to get these things pushed through. So we have a whole team behind the scenes in the legal department, compliance to help you be able to achieve those goals.
Great, thank you, Megan. That was a great answer, because it's a lot of students, I want to say every student, right? Like the ultimate goal is to own their own practice, whether it's private, whether it's with Aspen Dental, whether it's with another DSO, whatever it is. And they want to know what that path to ownership looks like, because it's different everywhere, quite frankly. And every doctor moves at their own speed as well. So I personally know owners who had went from an associate to an MCD to an owner within the first couple of years. And then I know some other doctors who they're like, you know what, I just want to solely focus on what I went to school for, which is treating patients. And I'll think about that ownership point I'll think about that ownership option at a certain point, but now I just want to. So thank you for that, Megan. And it looks like we're coming up on the top of the hour here, and I'm going to ask one more question to Dr. Hardiman and I think this will be a great way to conclude it. Considering that you did graduate in 2019, you did go to Howard, and as you know, this is a Howard Ask Me Anything, and all the students on here are from Howard. This is a question that I received, and this is one of my favorite questions. What is the biggest piece of advice, whether they're a D1, D2, D3, or D4? What is the biggest piece of advice that you have for a current dental student now, especially during these hard times that we're in, during the pandemic? What would be your biggest piece of advice that you have? And I think it'll be great to conclude with that one.
I guess my biggest piece of advice would be, do not take shortcuts in school. So this is an experience you've already paid for, and this is going to be the only time that you will really get that hand holding and really get that experience as far as learning from other professors. This is the only time you're going to get that experience and get that full one-on-one attention. So I would say, as hard as it is to go to clinic every day and want to be there in school, go as much as you can, get as many experiences as you can, volunteer in every department if you can, because you've already paid for it. And there's not going to be any other time you're going to experience that.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Hardiman. I think that I just want to thank you again for taking the time out to speak with the Howard students, because you speak a different language than I do. And I really, really wanted you to be a part of this, because I knew that you would be the perfect one for the role. I also want to thank Megan again for participating as well from an operations standpoint, because I think it's great for the students to kind of learn about what their support looks like once they join a DSO. So I want to thank you both for that. I also want to thank the students at Howard for joining as well. So I'm going to put my email up on the screen here very, very shortly. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. If you have any questions for Dr. Hardiman, if you have any questions for Megan, I would love to connect you with them as well. So I'm going to go ahead and put my email up here on the screen. And I just want to thank all the students again for attending. So thank you, everyone.
Yeah, and like if you guys have
Night.
any questions, just let them know and I'll definitely reach back out to you guys.
Thanks, guys. Have a
Thanks,
great night.
Megan.
Thank you, everyone. My email is miles.murphy@aspendental.com. I have put my email and my number up on there. Please feel free to reach out if you have any additional questions. I would love to connect with you if you have any questions that we did not answer during this session, because there was a lot that came in. So just want to thank everyone again, and I'll talk to all you soon.
Thanks, Miles.
Bye-bye. Thank you.